I start on sort of my prepared remarks, I can actually give you some very concrete examples from just last semester to actually flesh this out a little bit. In my Common Core World History class, which according to some people at the university is the sole source of student plagiarism at this university, that if it weren't for this class, they simply would not plagiarize, which of course I disagree with. I had a student who did his own software check, okay? I don't know what the software was, but he did his own software check, and I'm referring to this first bullet point up here. Now, Turnitin, I think, gave him around an 11% matchup, but as I'm going to explain in a minute, the figure is almost entirely irrelevant. You should never even really pay attention to the numbers. There could not be a less relevant aspect of Turnitin. So anytime you want to start focusing on that, it's very wrong-headed. But Turnitin gave him about an 11, but his software that he used had given him a 9. So he actually wrote to me and says, because I had sent back the results to him, that I'm sorry, but you've plagiarized, and so you're getting a 0 on this paper according to university policy. And he said, well, I only have a 9% matchup, so can you explain to me how I can prove that I didn't plagiarize? Well, the reality was it wasn't 9% plagiarized, it wasn't 11% plagiarized. The paper was roughly 100% plagiarized, because what he had done is he had gone to some websites which were never cited even at all. He claimed to have used 3 journal articles. He cited those journal articles. I went to those journal articles. I looked at those journal articles. Nothing whatsoever in his paper was from those journal articles. That was a blatant lie. And what he had done is he had taken it all from a couple of websites. He had mostly changed the words. Obviously, his software had helped him to figure out which words to change. And he got it down to 9, which he thought 9 being under 10 was probably not plagiarism, because I think maybe in his department 10 is the threshold. But I don't care what the number said, it was 100% plagiarized. That's the reality, okay? And I've actually been working just yesterday on preparing some resources to try to help explain to students how to avoid that kind of thing, because it is a problem and we don't want to catch students. We want to teach students not to do this sort of thing. The point number 3 there. I had a student whose paper was a 75% matchup with some other source. Well, that's like you're just using another student's paper. Now, I've seen that a lot too. A student who took the class last year, even though you changed the assignment, somebody turns in last year's assignment nonetheless. Or a student turns in the same paper in multiple classes. But in this case, it doesn't say it was from Lingnan University. It's from a high school or college or something in the United States. So I clicked, please, I'd like permission to, as Jim was saying, because I don't control that permission. So can I have permission? And this professor in the United States agreed within a few hours. And I saw that it indeed had a 75% matchup with a paper turned in the United States. I called the student in my office. I say, you've got a friend in the United States and you guys are swapping papers? No, I bought this paper. It's from one of these cheat sites. And I said, guess what? Well, first of all, you deserve what you're getting here because that was wrong, and I think you know that was wrong. But maybe that last guy got away with it because he was the first customer. But it turns out your cheat site has cheated you. Haha, isn't that funny? They sold the same paper twice. So in other words, it doesn't match up with the cheat site. It matches up with the first student who turned it in. Who would have thought that a cheat site would cheat their customers? Isn't that amazing? Okay, can you help me exit here? And I want to go to the next. Yeah, thanks. Now, a lot of the problems we have will really go away if we can get students to just not do it in the first place, which is obviously the goal. So let's move on down here. Now, I want to start sort of broadly and then and then I'm going to close the PowerPoint and actually open up some Turnitin, on the Moodle page and actually look at it a little bit. Why are we even here today? Well, the university policy was introduced for this term. I'm not sure everybody knows it because I don't know that the word from Senate always filters down to every single faculty member. But in response to QAC's concerns about the uneven enforcement of rules against plagiarism, well, Turnitin is mandated. Every written assignment is supposed to be turned in by Turnitin, to Turnitin, via Turnitin. But also, I've started using it as a grading tool, and I'm going to demonstrate that just a little bit, and then I can answer questions if you want me to. Now, Jim has already talked about this a bit, but I want to elaborate a little bit more, or maybe just repeat Jim. Maybe that's all I'm doing. But the software really isn't the solution. As I've said before, the numbers really, you can't go by the numbers. It doesn't catch idea plagiarism at all. There has to be a word matchup or it's useless, okay? And also, I have done an hour-long workshop, which I will not repeat, but it's videoed, it's on. I watched it again just the other day to admire my work or whatever. But you can actually see that. I demonstrate very, very thoroughly that I have had papers turned into me with a 3 or 4% score that were 100% plagiarized. And I've had papers that were 35% score or 30% score that were not good papers. They were weak papers, but they were innocent. There was no plagiarism in them at all, and it would be terrible to say, well, our departmental policy says 20% is the threshold, so you're getting a demerit. No, that is wrong because that 35% match was not plagiarized. The 3% match was 100% plagiarized. Again, that's the limitation of the software. It doesn't catch idea theft. It only catches word matches, which may or may not be a problem. It may or may not be innocent. It may or may not be guilty. Again, right now when we talk about Turnitin, we often, it's the nature of it, we're talking about catching the students. But I really want us to get our students to stop doing it. Just that's the goal, to not plagiarize, not to catch plagiarists, not to set a new record every semester with how many students we can send to the Student Disciplinary Committee to teach them not to do it, to do their own work, to learn more. Why do students plagiarize? There's a couple of possibilities I can think of that are not mutually exclusive. Some of them don't know any better. Some of them think their professors don't care and they can get away with it. I don't know how many times I've heard in the Common Core the students who put it off till year 4 instead of taking it in year 2, and then they get caught plagiarizing. Maybe they fail the class. Maybe they have to repeat the class when they should have been graduated. They say, this can't be plagiarism. I've done this for 4 years. I say, well, I'm sorry somebody didn't tell you earlier, but it's plagiarism, and that's that. So that's one reason why the uneven enforcement is a really serious issue. But also the uneven enforcement is unfair to students, because if Jim and I are both teaching and we each have a student who plagiarizes, it's complete plagiarism, but Jim just doesn't really check, and I do, or Jim catches them but prefers to handle it personally and just maybe let them redo it, and I follow university policy and send them to the Student Disciplinary Committee. In that case, 2 students who've done exactly the same thing, one may get kicked out of the university because maybe she stole food in her hostel last year and she already has 2 demerits or whatever. The other one, nobody even knows about it, right? So that's unfair if students are treated differently for doing the same thing. Now, I heard just the other day in a discussion involving across the faculties that we have very different ideas of what plagiarism is. So let's keep it very simple. Let's forget about all the different arguments. Let's just focus on what does the university policy actually say it is. Because, well, first of all, I think that this is a pretty universally standard definition, at least in Western countries. But like it or not, this is the university policy. This is plagiarism, okay? It's the presentation of another person's work without proper acknowledgement of the source, including exact phrases, but not only that, keep reading, or summarized ideas. Summarized ideas can be plagiarized even if it's 100% your own words, because if it's another person's work without proper acknowledgement of the source. That's a key point. Summarized ideas, even footnotes or citations. This is something students will do. Students will go to the Wikipedia page or something similar, and they'll find articles that actually have footnotes. They'll pretend they've read the books in the footnotes, but all they've done is copy Wikipedia, change the words, and then copy footnote, paste footnote, copy footnote, paste footnote. Some people have told me, well, if it's got footnotes, it can't be plagiarism, because that's the definition of plagiarism is if you don't have, but if you steal a footnote, that's plagiarism, and students will do that as well. And just to avoid plagiarizing, I've put this in quotation marks and I've cited my source. That is item 52C in the regulations governing university examinations. How are you supposed to handle it? Well, really, it's up to you. You do it. No. A student considered to have cheated, and of course, plagiarism is defined as cheating in item 5.2. If you're considered to have cheated, you should, that student should get a 0 mark for that particular piece of work, and the Board of Examiners concerned has the discretion to impose a penalty beyond that 0. They could actually say, well, with the 0, it was a small paper, you still passed the class. No, we're failing you. The Board of Examiners can do that. That's discretionary. But the 0 is not discretionary. If you say, oh, the student meant well, I'm sending it back. Maybe that's a good idea, maybe it's a bad idea, I don't know. But it's violating university policy, and you should be aware that you're simply flouting university policy if you do not give it a 0. Again, that's up to you if you want to flout university policy, but you should know you're doing so. And then secondly, it's not just the 0, you need to send it to the student disciplinary committee. That is not a choice. The only choice is, do I want to follow the university policy or do I want to flout the university policy? That's the choice, but the university policy is clear. Now, I've actually belabored this because I actually believe that not everybody at this university actually knows what the university policies are. And I think this leads to some problems, unfairness and things like that. So now I'm going to get back into Turnitin, which of course is why you're here. So using Turnitin, I've created some fake assignments within a current course. This is a senior research seminar. I can't really go in and use assignments that are actually there because that would violate students' confidentiality. But a couple of my students who are final year students said, yes, it is okay with us if you use our accounts. So you may see a student's name up there. I want to make sure you know I wrote those cheated, plagiarized papers. The students did not. No student plagiarized in this, So I'm going to show you some fake assignments. And I say I will set up a new fake assignment to demonstrate how to do it, but I think actually James will do that, so I may skip the part about creating an assignment if you're going to do that yourself. You're going to do it. So I will skip that part. But I will also show a little bit about how to use the grade mark if you want to use it to grade online, which I think is very convenient and quite easy, actually. So this is one issue to consider. Do you want to use Turnitin only as plagiarism software, if only because it's university policy now starting this term? Well, maybe you don't want to do it at all, but let's assume you're going to do it because it's the university policy. Or do you also want to use it as a grading platform to actually give feedback to the students? Or even for peer mark, it has a setting where you can empower it for students to comment on each other's work. I won't try to demonstrate that, maybe James will. I've never done that, but it's possible too. A very important point which has had a lot of disagreement publicly, including just a few days ago at Senate. Should students be allowed to see their originality score and resubmit? Well, I have very strong ideas about this, and I'll explain why. But you should know, using Turnitin is university policy. Letting the students see their score and resubmit, there is no university policy. That's your discretion, okay? And I will tell you why I think one way is a good idea and one way is a terrible, tragic idea. But nonetheless, it is your choice. If you let students see their originality score and resubmit, an advantage is it can be a useful teaching tool. It helps students to learn not to commit the word theft plagiarism, if that's a goal you have. I think this may be an appropriate goal in lower level writing classes, where you just want students to be able to see visually, this is what word theft looks like. And it gets highlighted and it shows to them. But a con, and this is why I will never let the students see the originality scores and resubmit. The con is doing so, allowing them to do this, gives the students an unrivaled, an unparalleled tool to help them plagiarize. And I can tell you a lot of students will say, thank you for that tool to help me plagiarize, and I will plagiarize now, thank you very much. So it helps them to plagiarize the idea plagiarism, not the word plagiarism. It helps them avoid that. But it helps them to plagiarize the idea plagiarism without getting caught. And so in contexts where you might want to discourage idea plagiarism, if you have such contexts, you probably shouldn't allow them to see their score and resubmit. So now I'm going to actually get out of here, and if you'll bear with me for a second, I'm going to open up Turnitin. You helped me there, thanks. And I'm going to go to my own Moodle page here. And I'm going to sort of show you a few things about using Turnitin in case you haven't used it before. Okay, so let's say never. Now, if you've never used this before, I think James is going to show you. You click Turn Editing on, and you'll have a chance to just input an assignment right here, and the students see it on their interface. Whatever comments you give back to the students that way, they see their comments, nobody else's. You know, all of that is quite straightforward. So for fake assignment 1 and 2, I don't know if you can read this. It's very simple. I didn't write out a whole assignment. I just want you to know the parameters of it. They need to select one of the following important historical figures. And I mean, there would be like 30 they could choose from, but Hitler. We're going with Hitler, Adolf Hitler. Use 2 approved scholarly secondary sources. So they need to come to the professor, to the tutorial leader. By the way, this is really the kind of assignment that 40 students plagiarized on just last semester. It's quite clear, I think. You just need 2 sources, 2 scholarly sources. Get it approved in advance so we can say, oh, well, that one's not really a good one. Oh, yeah, that one's great. Get another one like that. And they get it approved. Then make an argument that does the following, yada, yada, yada. OK, that's the assignment. They've got clear guidelines, maybe a page following explaining what they need to do, what kind of argument. But this is the part that is extraordinarily clear. 2 prior approved scholarly journal articles. Those are your sources. OK? Now, I'm going to show you one that, again, I say numbers not very important, but often you'll at least have a prejudice planted in your mind when you see a low number or a high number. And when you see this one, by the way, again, ignore the name, because I wrote this. For my demonstration now, I'm no longer the professor. I am the student. I'm writing a paper. Okay? That's my assignment, and I'm writing a paper. 70% similarity score. Whew, I told you numbers never matter. I've never seen one that high that was actually innocent. I've seen 35% that was still innocent. But let's check it out. Let's see what it actually looks like. So it'll be like 70% highlighted. Well, what is this? Again, I don't know if you can read it, but Adolf Hitler, and then the following is all, you can see how many words in a row are all directly copied. And it says, it's got his dates, 20 April 1889 to 30 April 1945, close parentheses. Was a German politician who was the leader of the Nazi Party. I mean, we're talking about just line after line after line. And, well, that's all from Wikipedia. And again, so pretty much 70% is word for word copying from Wikipedia. Now, that's an easy one. That's a real easy one. By the way, I wrote the paper. I did copy it word for word from Wikipedia, except change a few things here and there, but not very much. I didn't actually, this has given me more credit than I deserve, though, because I didn't steal from 2 sources. I actually took it all from 1 source. And if you tick this box, it's actually 75% from this Adolf Hitler article. All I did was look at the Adolf Hitler article on Wikipedia. That's full plagiarism. So again, you can see it broken up by different sources, or you can click this button and you can sort of see the dominant source first. And I can tell you, because I'm the plagiarist here, I did in fact just steal it from this 1 source. That's all I did. Okay? That's an easy one. But let's leave this one behind for a second. And let's look at this other student. Oh, sorry, I got out of there. Let's look at this other student now. This one, now here's why I want to say sort of don't pay attention to the score, because the score in a way is a reflection of my laziness, okay? Because I created a paper, but I only created a couple of paragraphs just to make the point and show you what it looks like. If I weren't so lazy, I would have created 5 or 6 or 7 paragraphs. I easily could have made that score 9 or 8 or 6 or something like that. So don't focus on the score, focus on what it actually is. Because if you were looking at this, your first thought might be, well, that's not actually that much. And if you break down what it is, Hitler was born in Austria. Okay, well, I mean, there aren't that many ways you can say that. That could easily be just an innocent, whatever. It's even common knowledge, possibly. I mean, right? And of course, these are footnotes. I mean, so maybe they read these two different scholarly sources. Hey, we're good to go. Yeah. And then, other than that, look, it's just like one phrase and another. It's not that big a deal, right? Maybe, I mean, if you follow the so-called 5 consecutive word rule, which is a ridiculous rule for another reason, but still, it's not much. But here's what actually happened. I know, because I'm the student. I wrote this paper. I know what I did. And you may need to trust me on this, but I've had so many conversations, because I teach the Common Core class, where students will tell me, this is exactly what they did. What I did was, well, I need to show that I used 2 sources, so I've got 2 sources there. Why do these sources actually match up in red? Well, because I took those sources, I took from the Wikipedia footnotes. I just copy and pasted them. I'll admit, since Professor Hampton's called me into his office, I will admit, I'm going to start crying now, but I'm going to admit that, no, I never even looked at those sources. I never even thought about looking at those sources. I copy and pasted those sources from Wikipedia. That's all. Yeah, that's what I did. And, this isn't that much. Dr. Hampton, this really isn't that much, right? I mean, come on, how else do you say Hitler was born in Austria? And you know what? It's because you didn't let me see my originality score and change my wording, because I would have corrected this. So really, that's the only problem. No, here's the problem. The problem is I went to Wikipedia. I didn't consult any other sources, no other sources. It's purely Wikipedia. I rewrote as much as I could. Let me confess something for you here. I left one in on purpose just to make this exercise work, but the other one, oops, it snuck by me. And that's what sometimes happens to students. There will be a 3% match to Wikipedia. It can be that tiny. If I see a 3% match to Wikipedia, I'm going to do my due diligence. I print out the article, I set it side by side, and I see that students have done exactly what I did here. They have, paragraph by paragraph, maybe word by sentence. It'll follow exactly in the same form as the Wikipedia article. It'll simply change the words. And if I gave them the tool to see their own score and then change it, then absolutely they would change it, and I would help them get away with plagiarizing, which is not the goal. Because this is the fundamental point we cannot overlook. This paper is 100% Wikipedia. How many times is Wikipedia cited? None. So that's the fundamental thing that you need to tell your students. If you take it from Wikipedia, you got to cite Wikipedia. And so why didn't I cite Wikipedia? And I've had this conversation with so many students. Did you forget to cite Wikipedia? Did you mean to cite Wikipedia? Were you under the impression that you never used Wikipedia? Are you surprised when I tell you this is? No, I know I went to Wikipedia. What? I'm not an idiot. I went to Wikipedia. Is there a reason you didn't cite Wikipedia? Well, you told me to use 2 journal articles. I didn't want you to know I used Wikipedia. So on purpose, I did not cite Wikipedia. Now, that's not innocent. I don't care how we spin it. That's not innocent. I knowingly went to Wikipedia. I knowingly did not cite Wikipedia. I wish the professor didn't know I went to Wikipedia, but if only the professor had let me see my originality index, similarity index, I could have changed it, and then it wouldn't be plagiarism, because the definition of plagiarism is, do you get caught? So it's the professor's fault. But so this is what you will see. That's why you cannot rely on the numbers. You actually have to dig in a little bit further. 3% means 100% plagiarism. 35% means 100% innocent. I mean, this is what the real world looks like. The software is just not, it's just not very good when it comes, it's useless actually when it comes to idea plagiarism. It only catches word matches, and word matches may or may not be plagiarism. There's no preconceived answer to that. Now, I'll be happy to answer questions about this or respond to any, different views or whatever. But I want to show you what I've increasingly, just very recently discovered is a beautiful side of Turnitin for me. And that is, and here's one, fake assignment number 3. Now this one I didn't write for, I wrote it, but I didn't write it for this exercise. I wrote it a few years ago. And I should have looked at this before I showed you guys. I committed plagiarism here. No, actually, it's a book review. I previously published it, and so it's on the internet. It's out there. And when I uploaded it, now I'm a little upset because the fact that there's only a 98% match means that the copy editor changed 2% of my paper, and I'm a little bit upset about that. But anyway, I'm putting this here now not to show you plagiarism, but to show you, how to use GradeMark. Now, if you look here, as a setting in Turnitin, you can set a point value for the assignment. I didn't set a point value because the default was 100. It's blank out of 100. So, I can use this if I want to actually give a grade like 75 out of 100, 80 out of 100, 90 out of 100. I can do that, and the student will see it as soon as I let the student see it. Now, I think James will show this when he sets it up, but you can set a post date, and that's the date, the second, the exact time that every student in the class will see their results at the same time. So if you use Turnitin to grade, you want to make sure that you put a good post date, because otherwise the students will see the papers as you grade them, and then one student is saying, my friend got his paper yesterday, where's mine? So, but the nice thing is, once you set the post date, you can change it as many times as you want. Oh, I'll be done by next Wednesday. Next Wednesday comes. Oops, I better put this back a little bit. I'm not done yet. But then I've also noted that when the post date occurs and the students see their results, one student sees the result, and you can actually use Moodle and you can see who's on the site at a given time or when they were last on the site. And I noticed that after one student in the Common Core saw her grade, within about 20 minutes, about 100 students had seen their grade, because obviously they're texting, hey, the grades are posted, hey, the grades are posted. So all the students got the papers back. I love this. One reason I love it is because over the years, how many times have I seen students appeal their grade result, and then I go to the history department office and discover they didn't even pick up their paper grade. They didn't even know what their paper grade is, and they're appealing. Well, now I know there's no problem of students maybe being too lazy to go pick up their paper. A lot more students will see their grades and they'll see the comments. And so instead of clicking on similarity index, or if you click here, the title, but even if I click similarity index, you see there's originality, which is where we are, GradeMark, and PureMark. Now if I click GradeMark, now I just see the paper looking, like a paper. Now, what if you don't like grading online? Maybe you don't like grading online. Well, you can actually click print here, and actually let me backtrack and go to originality. You can click print here, download PDF of current view, and print out that current view. And this is why so many students got caught in world history last semester, because the professor, the tutor who did most of the grading, doesn't want to grade online. In the past, we've always said to the students, submit it online, but also give us a hard copy so that Dr. Smith can grade the hard copy. But I've discovered every so often you'll find a student who submits a clean copy to Turnitin because they figure you'll never read that, you'll only read the hard copy. Then they submit the plagiarized version as a hard, I wanted to avoid that. So I said, only submit it online. And if you submit it online, if Dr. Smith still wants to grade a hard copy, we will print out the hard copy. And I'm not, for some reason it's not happening on this printer, maybe because it's not, I'm not seeing it here. But if I click this down right here, yeah, there it is. So again, forget the name Waki Chan. This is my writing, not hers. She didn't plagiarize. But when you print it out, this is what it'll look like. So you'll see the highlighteds, and then you'll actually also at the end see, oh, well, it matched up. So that's why so many students got caught. Not because more students plagiarized possibly, but because the tutor who likes to read the printed out copies, this is what his printed out copies looked like, just all those highlights. So of course he knew it was plagiarized. But if you want a hard copy, you can print it out like that. But let's get back to GradeMark. I want to grade it online. Now, I like to grade it online because my handwriting is terrible. Before I really discovered this, I was using Word, because you can also download it from Word if you want. You can download the document, and you know, but that's a lot of work also. So when I discovered you can do this, okay, so I'm gonna read this crappy paper by Dr. Hampton here. Okay, so that first sentence, you know, okay, so I've highlighted. Now I can go comment. It's not going as quickly as it usually does. I'm not sure what's going on. Comment, there you go. So you see it's highlighted in yellow there. I can enter my comment, and I can write rubbish, you know, and then save, you know. Of course, I wouldn't write a comment like that to a student. I'm much more supportive and gentle with the students, but this guy's a professional historian, so I got to be, you know. Then I say, what between paragraph 1 and paragraph 2, there's, you know, that's a weak transition. So I might go, well, okay, make your transition more clear or whatever. Now, the great thing here, I click save and it will save it, and then the student, when they see the paper later, they can see all the comments. They can click and open a comment, but they also can see all of the comments listed one after the other with a reference to what line it's on. But what if I'm grading here? You see these things to the side, right? These little, right? What if I'm grading and I'm thinking, why do I keep writing over and over again, make your transition more clear? Every student seems to have the same problem. I'm tired of writing it. Well, if it's a recurring problem, if it's not specific to one student, but it's a recurring problem, click right here, save as new quick mark. Now you've got to give your title a title of the quick mark. I'm not going to really save it because I don't want it to be in there, but it turns out I already have one like that. It's called, let me see if I can find it. I can't remember, but basically so you can save your comment if it's one you think you will use again. Okay. So for example, I have such comments as sentence fragment, run on, comma splice. Now that's just the title. If I click run on or comma splice, it actually explains what it means. It actually gives them a, here's just a very minor thing, but I find over and over again students use the word the when they don't need to, and they don't use the word the when they do need to. It's English as a second language issue. So I've got that. I can just sort of highlight it. And then another beautiful thing is if I find that I don't want to overload students with comments. When I used to write comments, I want to give them detailed comments, detailed feedback to help them. But what if I write something wrong? Well, here I can, of course, just delete it. It's no problem because they haven't seen it yet. And really, it's, you know, any comment that you want to write that's highly specific, you can write. Any comment that is a recurring issue, you can save. And it's very quick to, I mean, you still have to read the paper. That doesn't stop that. But you avoid rewriting and rewriting and rewriting the same thing over and over again. And then finally, I decide, and I've got a rubric, so I have a worksheet related to my rubric. I don't have it with me, but I will probably right here at the very top as the first comment, I will copy and paste the worksheet from my rubric. So the very first thing they can see is I have an analytical rubric that says this many points for this many points for this, and they can actually read the breakdown. They can see all the comments there. And then finally, I give them a 85 on the paper. Well, this is Hampton. I'm being too generous. I give them a 75. Okay, so then when we exit there, whenever the time comes that we come to the post date, you see right there, it says 75. The student will actually be able to see the grade. Then they'll be able to click on the paper. And again, they can only see theirs. But they can click on the paper. And then under grade mark, they can see all the comments that I've written. And if I wrote a comment, I changed my mind, I just have to delete it before it goes to the post date. So I'd be happy to say a lot more about this, but I don't think I need to because the basic structure is really all you need. The comments are really up to you. The question is only, do I want to save the comment for further use? Or is this really highly specific so I won't save it because you don't necessarily want to have too many things here. So, and I think that's about all I had planned. I was actually going to try to create an example of a paper that has like a 35 or 40% but is not plagiarized. And so I tried to create one, and I tried to do this by using a lot of cliches, like I'm going to roll up my sleeve and I'm going to pay my dues. And it was hard I couldn't actually create one. I have some. I mean, it just didn't work, okay? I have some, but I can't show them to you because they're students' confidential information. But I want to give you an example of how it happens, because I just got this book in the mail an hour before the workshop. It's called Britain's Cold War in Cyprus and Hong Kong. And I wrote one of the blurbs here, okay? Now, in my 50-word blurb, I used the phrase, "This book is essential reading for everyone interested in." I look at the blurb afterwards. "This book is essential reading for anyone interested in." So I didn't plagiarize from her. She didn't plagiarize from me. But you may have noticed that the phrase, "this book is essential reading for anyone," is kind of a common phrase in book reviews. It's a common phrase. So this is the kind of thing that in a short enough paper, or in a paper that uses enough cliches, you could easily get to 30 or 40%, even though nobody's really plagiarized. I mean, nobody's going to send me before a student disciplinary committee for using the phrase, "This book is essential reading for anyone interested in." But nonetheless, as short as these blurbs are, if we were submitted against each other, we probably have about a 30% match because it's such a short blurb. So that's why you can't just see a high number and say, "Oh, 40%, definitely plagiarism." And you also, as I've shown you, you can't see a low number and say, "Well, 3, 4%, that's below our department's threshold, so it's innocent." You have to actually do your work, or they'll get away with it. And again, I just make a plea that because I often see students from across all 3 faculties, many, many departments, not every semester, but every few years, I teach the Common Core class. And in fact, the plagiarism problem is not specific to any department or any faculty. It's across the university. And I often see students who postpone taking the class until year 3 or year 4, which, if they are to be believed, means they've been doing it for the first 2 years. So you probably do have students in your classes who commit plagiarism if there is any kind of opportunity to commit plagiarism, even if you haven't figured out yet that they do that. So I'll be happy to answer any questions. I also am cognizant I need to make sure that, but that's just the fact, right? But I say, well, okay, but look, it's not about the wording that I'm asking you about here. It's about, did you put it because you knew it was common knowledge? Or did you, in fact, go to a source and get it from the source? If the answer is, well, I went to a source and got it from a source, then my response is, you have to cite the source. That's a very simple, straightforward rule. If you got it out of your head, you don't have to cite a source. If you got it from a source, even if you change all of the words, you must cite the source. That's a very foundational, fundamental definition of academic honesty.